things you've created in your life that didn't exist before, that are exactly as you want them. And how did you do it? You got incredibly obsessed. You started to think about it. And when you think of something that you desire so much that you can't let it go, that's something you're going to achieve if you put your focus into it. Who can remember something like this that you got so obsessed by you thought about day and night? Who can relate to this in some way? Raise your hand and say, I. Now, once you're obsessed, that unleashes this energy, because wherever focus goes, energy flows, right? But the second key is really simple. What'd you do? Once you had all this drive and desire and hunger and it was so strong, how many of you took some form of massive action? Raise your hand. Say, I. And you may not even know what to do. You may not know how to do it. But if you just take massive action and you try something and it doesn't work, what should you do? Try something else. And if that doesn't work, what do you do? And if that doesn't work, what do you do? What if that doesn't work, what do you do? And if that doesn't work, what do you do? How long would you give your average child to learn how to walk before you said, look, kid, you're never going to learn, just give this shit up? You go, what are you, crazy? My kids are going to keep trying until they walk. Well, no wonder almost everybody walks. Because people take massive action, but they also keep changing their approach until they get there. So second key to achievement, after you're obsessed and you're focused and you give it all your energy, it's taking massive action and finding effective execution. And the way you find it is keep changing, or the way you find it is model someone who's already got it and save yourself the time. Does that make sense? How many have done this already somewhere? You were obsessed, you didn't know how to do it, it came together, you took massive action, you got beautiful results. How many have done this here? Say, I. It does take one more element. The third key. If you're totally focused on what you want, you put all your energy in what you want, not what you don't want. Most people are focused on what they don't want, so they get more of it. Focus, wherever focus goes, energy flows. If you know what you want, you're obsessed, you're taking massive action, you're modeling it, you're changing your approach, you're finding the effective way. The only other thing you need to achieve is some grace. Some people call it God. Some people call it luck. You could call it God or grace. But I can tell you one thing. In my own life, how many of you have had times in your life where as hard as you work, it felt like grace was there, like you were being guided, like it was beyond anything you did, like you were being blessed in that moment? Raise your hand if you've ever experienced this. Say, I. The one thing I can tell you about grace is the more of it you acknowledge, the more of it you appreciate in your life, the more of it seems to show up. And most of our lives are filled with grace, but we get so busy in our lives, kind of like those ministers running across the person right there in front of them, because they're so caught up, they haven't slowed down to actually take in and appreciate what they do have. The more you appreciate what you do have, ironically, the greater the energy you have to be able to go after everything else. So achievement's pretty simple, but I want to finish tonight with my mission for you. The main reason I really came, because 3 hours is not a lot of time. How many have gotten a great deal of value tonight, by the way? Say, I'm glad. I wish I could do more. I hope I'll see some of you at a full-blown seminar weekend sometime, because I go deep, not 3 hours. And the stuff you can imagine, we start doing it, it gets more and more immersed. But the last thing I want to point out, I said there were two skills. The science of achievement, and the second skill is not valued in our culture very much. But the second skill is more important than the first skill. And that is the art of fulfillment. The art of fulfillment. Now notice I didn't say the science of fulfillment, because what's going to fulfill you is different than the person next to you, even if they're your lover or your best friend or your brother or your sister. We all are fulfilled by different things, because if you want to know what fulfills human beings, you don't know what fulfills God. Go to the forest. What is the forest? It's filled with diversity. Look at this room. Look around you. Look at all the different kinds of people here. If you want to see if God has a sense of humor, let's just look at each other and you'll see God's sense of humor. We have is this beautiful diversity in this room? So here's what you got to get. What's going to fulfill you is different than the person next to you, and you got to discover what it is, because success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. I hear people tell me all the time, well, yeah, once I succeed, once I get there, don't worry, I'll be fulfilled. But then I get the phone call from the multi-billionaires, from the Academy Award winners, from the Grammy winners, from the people you would think would be the happiest humans on earth, who are miserable. I was just the other day, I got a phone call. I don't talk about people unless they talk about it publicly, so I won't tell you this person's name, but this person's a rapper, one of the biggest in the world, worth almost $1 billion, got more women than he could ever dream of in his lifetime, got more attention, got more money, got everything. Most miserable human being I've met in about 5 years. Because he's not appreciating it. He's achieving so much, but he's not fulfilled. And it's different for everybody. Steve Wynn, my buddy, I was just telling you, just saw today, who built half this town. I'll give you a perfect example of diversity of people's fulfillment. So I have a home in Sun Valley, Idaho, and so does Steve. And one day I get a phone call, and Steve says, "Where are you in the world?" I said, "I'm in Sun Valley." He goes, "I'm in Sun Valley." And he goes, "And it's my birthday." He says, "Come see me." I said, "Of course I'll come see you." He goes, "But Tony, I want you to come today because I gave myself a gift. There's a painting that I've been coveting for 17 years, and I just outbid everybody at Sotheby's, and I bought it for $82 million, one painting." And he goes, "You gotta see this painting." And I'm like, "You're not kidding, I gotta see this painting. I'm on my way, man. I gotta see this $82 million painting." And I'm picturing that this painting is gonna be like a Rembrandt, like it's gonna be, I don't know, I pictured like the Mona Lisa, I don't know what I pictured. But I get to his house, he goes, "Check it out." And he points to the wall, and this is what's on the wall. Throw it up there, that's it. That's called a Rothko. It's $82 million. I looked at it, and I stopped breathing because I didn't know what the hell to say. So I finally said, "Steve, it's a red frickin' square." I said, "Maybe they didn't tell you. It's a red square." I said, "Give me $100 worth of paints, and 20 minutes, I can duplicate this shit, I promise you." He did not like that since he spent $82 million. He goes, no, you understand, it's a Rothko. The guy that did this committed suicide." I said, "Well, that better be his blood for $82 million. I mean, what are you talking about?" But the reason I bring it up is I'm not being disrespectful, I'm being respectful. Steve finds $82 million in value in that because he's much more sophisticated than I am. He sees brush strokes. I see some areas where they missed the paint. Who's with me out there, by the way? But he gets $82 million worth of value in his heart and soul looking at this thing. So what you got to get is that everyone is unique in what fulfills them, and you got to find what it is. Because if you don't, then everything you're doing right now and all the hard work, and then you'll finally get your goal, and you'll go, "Is this all there is?" I'll give you a perfect example. 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years ago, we lost what I consider to be a national treasure in this country, Robin Williams. How many of you in this room, you're from 50 countries, raise your hand if you don't raise your hand if you like Robin Williams, raise your hand if you loved Robin Williams, raise your hand. Keep your hand up nice and high, keep your hand up high, look around the room. It's 98% of the people, there's only 2% assholes in this room that hated Robin Williams. There's 2% assholes, 98% really beautiful people. But answer this question for me honestly. Was Robin Williams a master of achievement? Was he a master of the science of achievement, yes or no? And by the way, he went to Hollywood. How many people go to Hollywood and say, "I'm going to be a star"? Everybody, this percentage does. He said, "I'm going to have my own TV show." Nobody gets their own TV show. He got his own TV show. Then he said, "I'm going to have the #1 show in America." Are there any of you as ancient as I am that actually can remember the name of that show? Mork and Mindy. Wow, a bunch of ancient people in this room, right? Mork and Mindy. So he has the #1 show, he's the #1 star, then he wanted to make more money than he could ever spend, which he did. Then he wanted to have a beautiful family that he loved, which he did. Then he said, TV's not enough, I want to make movies. Then he made movies, and that was enough. He said, I want to win the Academy Award. Then he said, I want to win the Academy Award for not being funny. His #1 skill. He wanted to win it as a dramatic actor, and he did it. And he hung himself. He hung himself in his own home, where his wife and children had to discover his dead, hanging body. How do you explain that? It's really simple. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. He made everybody happy except whom? And he left. I've asked this question in the last year and a half. I've asked it in Sydney, Australia. I've asked it in Brazil. I've asked it in Tokyo, Japan. I've asked it in Beijing, China. I've asked it in London. I've asked it in the US. Everywhere I go, 98% of people say they love this man. Hundreds of millions of people love this man. And it wasn't enough, he killed himself. And worse, he didn't just leave the planet, he left his children and his wife scarred for life. And he was a good man. I met him once. My birthday, I did a TED Talk, and the one I told you about, when people went crazy, became one of the most watched TED Talks. And so they took me to dinner that night, and it was my birthday, and all of a sudden, he shows up, Robin does, and he jumps on a table and starts singing to me as an old Jewish woman, and then a Russian man, and he just kept changing personalities. And I've never lost one suicide. I had no idea he was suicidal. If I would have known that, I think what could have been done. But maybe his story can wake us up. Because all that you're pursuing, $1 billion, $1 million, the largest downline, income for life where you don't have to work, it's all beautiful stuff and you all deserve it. But it is not going to make you happy. It will for a moment. How long? How long when you achieve your goal do you still feel excited about it? A week, a month, 2 or 3 months, 6 months, and then it's not enough. That's because what you have to do is pursue the fulfillment. And I'll tell you what it takes to do that. Because it's not a science, it's an art. But there are a couple principles. I mentioned one earlier. In order to be fulfilled, you've got to grow. What do we say? What's the key word for happiness? It starts with a P. What is it? Progress equals happiness. If you just make progress, it's going to be there. So you got to grow or you're dying. If your relationship's not growing, it's dying. Don't bullshit yourself. If your business is not growing, it's dying. You better do something to start growing it. If you're not getting healthier and stronger, you're getting weaker. Is it true? There's no plateaus in life. But when we're making progress, even when we're not there yet, we're on fire. We're excited. Life is really, really beautiful. And then we grow so we can meet the second need, which is having something to contribute. Those 6 needs, growing and giving, those top 2 spiritual needs. Because when you grow and have something to give, now we feel more alive. How many of you, when something great happens, something beautiful happens, the first thing you want to do is share it with somebody you love. Tell them about it, take them on the experience. Who knows what I'm talking about here? Say I. Why? Because inherently, you are not selfish. You may act selfish at times. I've been selfish. I'm sure you've been selfish, but it's not your true nature. Your true nature is to grow and give. And when you do, you feel the most alive. And by sharing it, it gets bigger. There's only so much pleasure you can feel by yourself, whether you're playing music, whether you're doing drugs, whether you're learning or growing or anything. But when you share it, whether it be music, lovemaking, a book, a conversation, it gets stronger, doesn't it? So those are the keys. You got to grow and you got to give within that area of fulfillment. But here's what I want to finish with tonight that I really believe if you forgot everything else and did this, it would be worth your flying across the world to be here. About a year and a half, I guess about 2 years ago, I went to India and I have lots of brilliant friends and I have this one really brilliant friend. And he was saying to me, Tony, you know how you talk about the secret is peak state? Like when you are energy rich, life is a different game. How many got that from tonight? No, it's absolutely true. Say I. So I'm always building that energy. I'm always doing something to bring it up because otherwise gravity, experience, time, energy, your energy will go down unless you keep building, unless you build that mental, emotional muscle, that habit. And he goes, you talk about energy rich or peak states. When you're in a peak state, you have peak performance. And when you're low energy or energy poor, worse than financial poor is energy poor. Because if you're energy poor, you'll never get anything turned around. If you're energy rich, you can get the money, you can get the business, you can turn things around. He goes, what if we switched energy rich, energy poor, peak state to low state to 2 other words? You're either in a beautiful state, like a peak state, or you're suffering. And he said, what if everything you feel is either a suffering state or a beautiful state? And he said, Tony, if you want to know what my spiritual vision is for my life, not my religious vision, my spiritual vision, I've decided I want to live in a beautiful state every day, no matter what, even when it doesn't go my way. Because if the only time you're going to be happy is when it goes your way, you're not going to be happy all the time. And he goes, it's not just happy. Because who's ever smiled so much or been so happy your face hurt? You know what I'm talking about here? Right? Right? So it's funny. So we need variety even in our bodies. So let me give you an example of beautiful states. A beautiful state could be happiness, it could be joy, it could be playfulness, it could be courage, it could be bold, it could be creativity, it could be hunger, it could be sensuality, it could be fun, it could be funny, it could be courage, it could be bold. All of those are beautiful states. Raise your hand if you follow me on this. Say I. So then what would suffering states be? Frustration, sadness, anger, loneliness, overwhelm, stress, worry. So if you would have asked me 2 years ago, Tony, do you suffer? I would have laughed. Do I suffer? Are you kidding me? I have 4 amazing kids. I got 3 grandkids. I got the most incredible wife. I've got 31 companies. I have a mission. I love what I do. I'm in the best physical shape of my life. I can rock and roll. I'm financially independent. I am not suffering. And I would not be lying or exaggerating, but I was suffering. I just thought it was natural. My suffering was getting pissed off or getting frustrated or getting stressed or getting overwhelmed. Who can relate here? Raise your hand. Say I. And by the way, I'd be in a great state and it would all disappear like that. You know how? I got 1,200 employees, 31 companies, 4 continents. All I need is this to lose my happiness. That's all I need. Right? Because all I'd feel is a little beep in my pocket and I look down there. Tell me something. What are the chances that somebody is screwing something up right now with 1,200 employees on 4 continents in 7 industries? What are the chances someone is doing something I think they shouldn't be doing? Where would you say that is? 0 to 100%. What do you think? So my happiness was so cheap. All I needed was this thing in my pocket, and I could look down and go from very happy to, oh, shit, wolf. Who can relate? Raise your hand if you can relate here. And so I began to realize that the most powerful thing in life, and the reason I came by today to be with you, is to remind you of what you already know. You're more than enough. This business is not complex. It may look complex at times. Anything does when you're new at it. What this really comes down to is learning to get absolutely clear on what your goals and presence are, having your daily action items, and then it's really about total presence. Because if you have that presence, people will feel you differently than anyone else they've ever met, and they will remember. And there'll be a time, if you don't get them now, where you're going to get them. They're going to come to you. You're going to see it. It's going to be there. Because it's so rare to have somebody be really there. But I also came by today to make sure you get that energy up, and I also came by today to remind you there's 3 ways to go to business. I also came by today, in the end, most importantly, to say, I want you to be filled today, not some other day. And here's what it takes to be fulfilled. It takes trading your expectations for appreciation, and your whole life will change like that. The young lady we started with up here in the front, her daddy loves her. She has expectations that weren't met, and she's feeling hurt and angry, and she separates from him and then thinks he's not connected to her. I'll give you a simple example. I'm privileged enough today to have a Global Express. It's an intercontinental jet, gigantic jet, so I can fly straight to China with no stops. It's unbelievable. I got a 12-foot bed. I got the best food. But most of my life, I went commercial or I chartered. And so it was really wonderful, right? Thought it was really, really great. And I used to go to Australia. I still do. I go to Australia 3 times a year. And when I go to Australia, I would be so stressed because I get on the plane, and what happened? In the U.S., I was chartering planes, and you had internet connection. But when you flew all the way to Australia, there's no internet connection. So for 14 hours, I'm disconnected from 31 companies. All my emails are building up. All the texts are building up. All the Slack's building up. All that's building up. When I land, I'm going to have all that to deal with. And I could have been knocking it out on the plane, and it's making me stressed. And I was thinking, man, I hate flying. I hate traveling. It's so stressful. Now, really think about this. What's stressful about sitting? I mean, this is the stories we make up in our heads, right? So I remember one day I get on the plane, and they get on the announcer, and they say, ladies and gentlemen, we're proud to announce we now have internet, international internet. And it was like God descended into the plane. People were cheering. Some people literally stood up and clapped. I was tempted to stand up and clap, and I kept my composure, but inside I was clapping like crazy. I'm like, this is the greatest thing. Instagram, your texts are back, your emails are back, you can rock and roll, you can search the web, you can run your companies. This is the greatest thing in the world. And about 9 minutes later, what do you think happened? It went down. And how do people respond to the miracle when it disappeared after 9 minutes? This is bullshit. I can't believe I'm putting up with this. What kind of company does this kind of internet? 9 minutes earlier, it was a miracle. Now it's an expectation. Do you get it? People say to me, oh my God, flying here to Vegas was so stressful. Oh my God. We sat on the runway for 40 minutes. They sat us on the runway for 40 minutes. Can you believe that? Yes, afterwards, did you fly like a freaking bird through the air? Like a free carpet ride? Did you watch a movie while you're flying? Birds can't do that shit. Did you sleep while you're flying? Birds can't do that either. Can you see what we've done to ourselves? We're so unhappy about little stuff. You ever see these people with their phones today? You go to Texas, where they hit. It's going up to a satellite. Give it a moment. If you and I are going to have an extraordinary quality of life, we can't just achieve. We got to be fulfilled, and the only thing that's going to fulfill you is not achieving your goals. What's going to fulfill you is learning to appreciate the littlest things every moment. If you can find, here's what's more unique than billionaires. Billionaires are not unique. What's unique is a human being that's happy and in a beautiful state every day, no matter what, even when it rains on their parade, even when people are mean, even when injustice is there, even when things are unfair. Because, by the way, are people going to be unjust? Yes or no? Are people going to be unfair? Yes or no? Are people going to judge you by the color of your skin, by your income, by your gender, by your background, by your... Are people going to make up stories about you before they even meet you? Yes or no? So why would that upset you when you know it's reality? The best study of life is how it is. What you want to do is find the things to appreciate that are all around you. I'll tell you the biggest challenge to the guys that went to the moon. Can you imagine these astronauts? They spent their whole life, they dreamed to go on the moon, they beat out 10,000 other astronauts, they go there, they walk on the moon, they look back, they see the blue-green Earth that we've all seen the photograph, but they saw the real thing. They come home, there's a ticker tape parade, in New York, they shake the president's hand. Now, what do you do once you're 32 years old and you've walked on the moon? What do you do for adventure? And I'll tell you the problem. If you study the astronauts, and I've met many of them, Buzz Aldrin, all these guys, the original astronauts, every single one of them ended up addicted to alcohol or drugs in some way because they thought the only way to have adventure was go to the moon, and they forgot to find it in a smile. If you and I can learn to appreciate, my goal is real simple now. I want to be the happiest, most beautiful state guy that exists. I want to find ecstasy in every moment. And I look around right now, how many of you could be ecstatic right now by either things you've learned or you've focused on, or there's things already in your life? How many could be in ecstasy right now if you really wanted to be? Say aye. Then guess what? If you're not, it's not because you don't have a great life. It's because you have a 2-million-year-old brain. And this brain was not designed to make you happy. It was designed to make you survive. And so what it's always doing is looking for what's wrong. And what's wrong is always available. So is what's right. So when you look for brown, you found it even when it was beige. When you look for red, you found it even when it was burgundy. If you become obsessed with finding things to appreciate and be in a beautiful state every day, I want to tell you something. Recruiting people is the easiest thing when you're in a beautiful state. Every woman in this room, ladies, a guy that's constantly coming at you, who's in scarcity, who's trying to get you, does it turn you on? Some of you, yes, I'm sure, because there's somebody for everybody. How many women are turned off by it? It gives you the heebie-jeebies. Raise your hand. That's how clients respond when you come in hot with your network marketing approach. What you want to do instead is own yourself and be so happy and so fulfilled and love what you do so much that people are curious. Where they're starting to ask you questions and where you start to unveil some of that. When you're in a beautiful state every day, people are attracted to you. Men, women, children, everybody's attracted to you. It's a different game. So how do you do it? And I'll finish. I've been promising that for a while, I think, haven't I? Are you still with me? Still with me? to the top of this talk is decisions. If you want to know why your life is the way it is today, look back on the last 5 or 10 or 15 years. How many of you can think of a decision that if you would have made a different decision, you would have a radically different life today? Better or worse, I don't know, but radically different. How many can think of a decision that would have shaped you differently? Say I. Whether it's where you went to school, what you picked as a profession, who you decide to spend time with, who you decide to love, whether you're going to have children or not. If you'd asked me up until 2 years ago, what's the most important decision in life, I would say, who are you going to spend time with? Because who you spend time with is who you become. Today, as important as that is, there's a more important decision I found. And it's the decision, a real decision, to say, I'm going to live in a beautiful state no matter what. And when I say a decision, a real decision is, the word decision comes from incision in Latin, to cut off from. When you make a real decision, you commit to what you're doing and you cut off everything else. It's like I tell people, if you want to take the island, burn the boats. Because if you burn the boats and there's no way back, you're going forward. But if there's a way out, human nature is rationalize and get the hell out of here. How many know what I'm talking about from your business career here? Say I. So here's my invitation. Tonight, your whole life could change forever. Your business will change if you build your energy. Your business will change if you keep putting yourself in a peak state. Your business will change if you start noticing what you're not noticing. Your business will change if you come up with a 10-10-10 plan. Your business will change if you start to build your identity. Your business will change all the things we talked about tonight, but your life will change forever if you realize that you have a favorite flavor of suffering. What's your favorite flavor of suffering, brother? What's your name? Roy, what's your favorite flavor of suffering? What's the kind of suffering that you probably wouldn't cover suffering because you're an achiever, right? Like, I don't suffer. Like, we don't get fearful, we just get stressed.
My favorite flavor of suffering?
Yes. Which one do you gauge in?
No.
Would it be worry? Would it be pissed off? Would it be sadness? Would it be anger?
I would say worry.
What's that?
It'd be worry.
Worry.
Worry. I'm a worry ward. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite flavor of suffering?
Speaking in front of large crowds.
Well, we just handled that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so your fear about that. What's your favorite flavor of suffering?
Beating myself up.
Because you didn't achieve the goal yet.
Yes.
By the way, when you beat yourself up, does it increase your performance, yes or no? No, see, I used to convince myself that when I'm pissed, when I'm angry, when it's not working, I'm 10 times smarter. And I do get smarter. But what I found is when I'm in a beautiful state, I'm 100 times smarter. Because without the stress, I have so much freedom to come up with ideas, it's a whole different piece. If you will make a decision today that says, life is too short to suffer. Who's with me on that? Say I. No, say it like you mean it. Say I. Then I'll give you the key. There's 3 things that go on in you when you suffer. Write them down. 3 triggers. Loss, less, never. Whenever you start believing there's something that you did, or something I did, or something the government did, or something your brother did, or your mother, or your coworker, or the company did, and as a result, you have less of something, like less love, you think, or less time for yourself, or less money, or less reputation, or less anything you value, then you'll suffer. Or if you believe that something someone else did, or you did, means you'll have lost something. Lost love, lost significance, lost certainty, lost relationship, lost friendship, lost reputation. If you believe you've lost, loss is always an illusion, but if you think you've lost it, you will suffer. And the third word is never. If you think because of something you did or I did or something they did that we'll never have this love again, we'll never have this opportunity again, we'll never be able to do this again, when you believe it's lost, less, or never, you suffer. The antidote is you don't go from suffering to euphoria. It's too big a jump. So when you're suffering, all you have to do in that moment is find something you can appreciate and then start to enjoy it and then do something loving and the game is over. All you got to do is appreciate, enjoy, and then love. Love is an action, something you're going to do, something you're going to give, something you're going to share, something going to happen, and suffering literally disappears. When I say make a decision not to suffer, what that means is suffering will still arise because you got a 2 million-year-old brain that's always looking for what's wrong. So it's still going to do it. The only difference is now when it starts to happen and you start to feel lost less than ever, you go, look at that thought going by. Look at that crazy thought. What's this? What's the most stressful thought you think most often? What are 2 or 3 of the most stressful thoughts you think regularly? Am I doing this right? I'm not enough? I'm not doing enough? My voice is gone. Tell me anyway, I can understand you. I don't know. What's one of your most stressful thoughts that you think regularly?
Flying in an airplane.
What's that? Flying an airplane is a stressful thought for him. How many of you in this room have thoughts like I'm not doing enough as a regular thought? Let me see your hands. So I want you to know that stressful thought is not unique. How many thought maybe I'm not enough, smart enough, young enough, rich enough, funny enough? Who's had those thoughts? Let me see your hands. I could take every stressful thought you tell me you have that you think is your stressful thought, and I can show you it's been around for 1,000,000 years. You just tap into it. If you can learn to just catch those thoughts and let them go by and put yourself back in appreciation, it's game over. So I'm out of time, so I want to give you a way to end your suffering in 2 minutes. There's zillions of ways, but I like to give it to you to wrap it up. Are you up for it? Stand up and stretch one last time. Stand up and stretch one last time. We're going to be done. Stand up, 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 up. Shake your body out. Shake it out. Shake it out. Face your partner and say, I own you. No, I own you. No, I own you. Outdo the energy for 30 seconds. 1, 2, 3, go. Certainty, here's what I want you to do. Think of something right now, unfinished business at home. Maybe there's something with a friendship. Maybe there's something in an intimate relationship. Maybe there's something in your business that's unfinished business and it bugs you because you haven't handled it and you know you should, but you put it off because it's too stressful to think about it or you distract yourself. How many have got something or someone where you need to resolve something, but you avoid it because you're so damn busy, which really means because you're stressed when you think about it? Raise your hand if you can think of something like this, unfinished business that needs to be handled. So that would be suffering. Does that make sense? You may not call it that, but it's suffering. How many see that? Say I. Pick one if you can, that on a 0 to 10 scale, it's at least a 7 of upset. 10 is off the charts, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because if it's 2 or 3, you may not notice the difference. Raise your hand if you can think of a situation that's not resolved, that you need to resolve, and it's a 7, 8, 9 or above in terms of upset. Let me see your hands if you were to focus on it. Raise your hand if you got it. Perfect. Now, research has been done. When you were born, all of us in this room, before you have a brain, your heart starts to beat. Life begins when your heart's beating, and there's no brain to tell it what to do. Your heart has its own intelligence. Your heart affects the way your brain functions, and your brain affects the heart. Most of the times when we're suffering, We're in our head. I always tell people, get in your head, you're dead, right? But if you get yourself connected to your heart, as simplistic and metaphorical as this sounds, science has shown that when you focus on your heart, so in a moment, you're going to put both your hands on your heart, you're going to physically feel your heart, we're going to breathe into our hearts. We're going to put all our energy and focus there. And as we're breathing and focusing on the heart, if for 2 minutes, all we do is think of 3 things that you could be grateful for, 3 different moments in your life, one at a time, while we're breathing in our heart, a very interesting thing happens. When you're stressed out, when you're anxious, as this one's doing, when you're pissed off, when you're frustrated, when you're overwhelmed, I can measure your brain waves and your heart waves, EEG, EKG. You all seen it, right? And when you're stressed out, it looks really like this. It looks all jagged. So if you're looking at somebody that's, frustrated, that's what it looks like. The brain, the heart waves and the brain waves don't look anything like each other. They're jagged and they're on the line. When someone goes into deep gratitude or appreciation, literally, if you do it for 2 minutes, your brain waves and your heart waves become one. They literally unify and they're rounded and you get the answers you need in a matter of a couple of moments. So there's many ways to do it. Because I'm out of time, I'm going to give you this one real fast because we can do it in 2 minutes. So put your hands on your heart, and if you would, breathe deep in your heart. Take a huge deep breath in, exhale, and moan. I'll try that one again. Take a deep breath in. This time make it a sexual moan and enjoy it. That was much better. Now, put your hands on your heart, close your eyes, and as you're touching your heart and breathing in your heart, I'd like you just for a moment now, feel the power of your heart. Feel the beauty of your heart. Feel the strength of your heart. As you breathe deep in your heart, think about the fact that it beats 100,000 times a day without you having to tell it to do it. Your heart is always there for you. Even when you're sleeping, it works for you. Think about what an incredible gift it is. Think about the fact that you didn't have to earn this heart, did you? Something loved you enough to give you this heart, and with it, the gift of life. And as long as it beats, we live. So feel gratitude for this beautiful heart inside you. What are you grateful that your heart has guided you to feel, to do, to give, to experience? Truly fill up with gratitude for your heart and its beauty and its power. And as you're breathing in your heart now, I want you to think of a moment in your life that you could feel deeply grateful for. It could be any moment. It could be a little moment or a big moment. It could be from your childhood, or it could be as you are as an adult. Step in that moment like you're there and see what you saw then when it felt so good. Something you're so grateful for. Breathe in that moment. Fill up with gratitude for that beautiful moment, a sacred moment, a loving moment, a magic moment. Feel it like you're there, like you're in it, seeing what you saw as if you were there, looking through your own eyes again now. Breathing, feeling. That's it. Feel it. Think of a second moment now you could feel deeply grateful for. Breathe it, feel it. Fill up with that moment. Fill up with gratitude and appreciation. could just